So after getting Birmingham City promoted in our last rebuild, which if you haven't watched, you should, I've come back to see if we can keep them in the Premier League. Let's have a look at what we've done. The first thing we needed to do was to bring in some Premier League quality players, and the first one through the door is Callum Hudson-Odoi from Chelsea. We've ended up playing 12 million up front. This could go all the way up to 14 million, but as a player that is used to the Premier League, has been to places like Bayer Leverkusen and has played games for Chelsea, I thought he was ideal for that left hand side. You can see he's got 3-star current ability with 5-star potential, and his value is already shot up, so hopefully he can make a massive contribution this season. The next player in came from another London club, this time Arsenal, and it is Sambi Lokonga. We played a similar sort of fee for him, 12.5 million. Obviously, he wasn't getting the game time he wanted over at Arsenal, and after spending a couple of seasons barely playing, he's come over to us again with lots of potential and hopefully some Premier League playing experience. He's joined by Marco Sensai, who's an Argentinian centre-back, and in this version of reality, he's recently been playing for Bournemouth in the Premier League. It cost 17.25 million to bring to the club, as well as a part exchange of a youth player whose name I don't remember, but hopefully he can help us in that defensive area, which is always a problem when we get promoted in rebuilds. It's actually surviving. I think in real life at the moment, he's possibly actually at Bournemouth. He previously played at Feyenoord as well. And as we can see, he's easily one of the best players we have at the club. Now it's just a case of, can he help us defensively this season? The next signing is Isco. Quite a big signing, I'm sure you agree. Although he's getting on a little bit in years, he's obviously previously played for Real Madrid. He played for Sevilla, and we purchased him from Atletico Pamplona, who I don't know, but apparently play in La Liga. He's really not had a great start to this season with a 6.2 rating, but I'm hoping he can improve. He's been brought in to play as a central attacking midfielder. He can play as a central midfielder, as a playmaker as well, and because he's 32 years old, we paid £6 million for him. Some of that's also in installments, so it was a really good deal. There are some more transfers in to go through as well, but let's have a look at some of the major transfers out. The first one is a player we bought in the previous rebuild, De Cordova Reed. I think he was only with us for one season. We got him on a free, and we sold him to Sunderland back in the Championship for 7 million, so it's a nice little bit of money made. Troy Deeney also wouldn't agree a new contract for us and has gone over to play for LA in the MLS this season, which is a bit of a loss for us because although again he is getting on in years and he's 36 years old, he is someone who's been scoring a lot of goals for us, and it's going to be difficult for us to replace him. Because we brought in Hudson-Odoi as well, Placheta ended up leaving the club. As we can see, he's been with us for the whole rebuild so far. Originally on loan, he was one of those that ended up at Birmingham, and we're not really sure how. If you haven't seen that, again, it was in the previous rebuild. I think it's a database error. He's gone to Valencia for 7.5 million. And after we thought we had our transfer and our team pretty much ready, John Ruddy decided he was retiring. It was a very, very quick announcement, and it happened very soon after. But we lost our main goalkeeper that we've had for the past few seasons, who's now retired to be a unemployed goalkeeping coach, which is a little bit of a shame. We didn't stop spending there though, with Mika Marmol coming in to be our new left back. He's come in from Inter Milan, who purchased him a couple of seasons ago in game for 1.6 million. We've paid 7.25 million for him, but again, it's another one with potential and hopefully maybe Premier League quality now, although he is showing up as a good Championship player, so we'll see how that pans out this season. Because of Ruddy leaving, we also needed a new goalkeeper, and we found one in the form of Murrick, who plays for Nottingham Forest in game, and by the looks of it will be at Burnley currently in real life. He only cost us £4 million. He's not the best goalkeeper in the world, but he could become a good Premier League player, so hopefully he just stops some goals this season. We also got a new right back in the form of Jayden Bogle, a player I've bought in rebuilds before. He's not the best right back in the world, but he is cheap and has a good quality for that price. We managed to get him for £3 million from Sheffield United, which could end up being an absolute bargain. Because we only had one major recognised goalkeeper, with Callum Ward also leaving in the summer transfer window, we bought in Jasper Kilasian. who's played obviously at former teams Ajax, Barcelona and Valencia, so a very, very good recognised goalkeeper. He's got good ratings the last couple of seasons playing in the Edworthy as well, and he cost us 7.25 million to bring over. He would only sign a one-season contract, which isn't great for us spending that money, but if it helps us survive this season, then it's money well spent. Our last signing of the transfer window was Marco Livaja, who again looks like a perfectly capable either left back. He can play as this central attacking midfielder, but most likely for us is going to play as a striker. We're playing with a pressing forward, and as we can see, he's got some good technical ability for that role, and his mental and physicals aren't too bad either. At the age of 31, he's not going to be around for too long, but he did only cost us 3.9 million. Again, he's another one who hasn't had a fantastic start to life in the Premier League. A quick look at the schedule then, and we can see we're not doing too badly at the moment. We've got one win, which was a 2-1 win against Southampton to open up our account in the league. We then drew 0-0 with Chelsea before losing 3-0 to West Ham. So a very, very mixed bag of results then. And now we've got to go through the rest of the season facing the likes of Manchester City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, basically teams that can absolutely batter us. Because of the players we've brought in, we have stuck with a 4-2-3-1, which is what we were playing in the last season of the Championship, and this is what the best 11 looks like according to my assistant manager. It does put Isco in here. We've changed this role to an Enganche. No idea if that's how you say that, but that's how we're saying it, just because that's his best role there. You can see Livaja is playing up front, Hudson-Odoi over on the left, our new signing. James, which is one of our regens, or at least a youth player for Birmingham, is going to remain starting on that right-hand side. He did really, really well there in our last season in the Championship, and hopefully can grow into a nice Premier League player. Longstaff and Sambi Lokonga are in midfield, so Sambi Lokonga, our new signing. And then we've got Marmol, Sensi, Stanisic, Bogle and Ciliuson starting in filling out our final 11. Now though, let's get over, simulate through that first season and see if we can actually survive the Premier League. While that first season is simulating, let's talk about FM23. FM23 was recently announced as being released on November the 8th by Sports Interactive. And if you pop down in the description below, you'll find a link to 2Game and my discount code Edworthy, which if you put in at checkout, you can get 5% off the already 20% discounted price over at 2Game. You instantly get a code to put into Steam, so it is a completely legit way of getting the game. And as well as that, you get access to the beta 2 weeks before the game release. Exact date to be confirmed by Sports Interactive, as always. If that's something you're excited for and you want to support the channel, please head down into the description below, hit that and put in your coupon Edworthy to get your 25% off FM23. So we've simulated through the first season with Birmingham in the Premier League. How did we get on? Well, we got knocked out in the third round of the Carabao Cup. Let's have a look at these as we go through them, actually. So, Carabao Cup, we did manage to beat Salford, which was in the second round 2-0. But then we lost 2-1 to Manchester City, which is kind of to be expected, I suppose, because it's Manchester City. FA Cup wise, we beat Brentford and Lincoln, but then we lost to Newcastle, which was in the fifth round. Looking at this as well, doesn't look like we had a especially good game. In fact, that is a 5.8 rating there from Livaja up front, which is just awful. And the other competition obviously we're in is the Premier League, so let's have a look through these. I mean, we already saw these ones at the start. We then lost to Manchester City, we lost to Watford as well, and I feel like Watford are the sort of teams maybe we should be getting a point out of, maybe 3. We've got Aston Villa. We managed to win that. 1 penalty there from Isco. Nothing going on in October, but a really, really good November, to be fair. So a draw against Arsenal, a win against Brighton, Leeds and Brentford, which is really, really good. December, I think I said this in the last video, we always have poor Decembers. But this one's a little weird, actually, looking at it. So we lose to Everton, we lose to Newcastle, draw 1-1 with Leicester and lose to Fulham. All which are games we should maybe be getting the occasional point out of. But then we've managed to beat Manchester United 2-1 and Liverpool 2-1. Those are just questionable. January is absolutely atrocious. We've lost 5-1 to Arsenal, but then we've won 7-1 against Spurs. What was going on with Spurs there? That's the most Spursy thing I've ever seen. They also appear to have Harry Maguire now as one of their centre-backs, which is an interesting transfer to say the least. But 7 goals from Isco, Hudson-Odoi, Bakuna, Stevens, Hudson-Odoi again, and Sensei all scoring. You can see here as well that is some absolutely fantastic performances in there, and Bakuna playing up front has managed to get a goal, so that's really, really good. But then we move on to the rest of the second half of the season. February is poor. March is atrocious. I mean, there's 1 win in there against Brentford, but there's also a 5-0 loss against Newcastle. April is kind of the same. There is a good end to the season, though. So a 1-0 win against West Ham, a 1-1 draw with Villa there. Marmol scoring that goal. And then we lost 2-1 to Watford again on the last day of the season. But all of that does mean we've ended up finishing 14th. So we've ensured Premier League survival. That was kind of what we set out to do. It's not a great survival. I mean, we're not far above the relegation zone. And I wouldn't mind betting if I have a look at past positions here as well. Did we ever, I mean, early days we were 17th there, but we never actually went into the relegation zone all season. So that's got to be something to cheer about. The highest we were was 9th. The lowest we were was 17th. And for a lot of the season, we've kind of sat where we finished, around 14th. So I think that's pretty decent. And the most important thing I'm looking at here, to be fair, for next season is goals, because this is really, really not a lot of goals. Our top goal scorer, in fact, is Isco, who got 9 goals in all competitions. I'm not sure how many of those were in the league. Only 7. So our top goal scorer got 7 goals in the league. That's followed by Jordan James, who realistically has no right to be scoring that amount of goals, because you look at his report, and yes, he has the potential to be a Premier League player, but right now he's a League One standard player, and he is our main starting right winger. Hudson-Odoi managed to get 7 as well. Lavaja, who we bought in hoping he'd score some goals, he's got barely any. He's got 4 in the league this season, and his average rating is doggy doo-doo, so I don't think he's going to survive the summer transfer window. And it kind of scales down from there. Having a look at assists then, 9 from Isco. So Isco is one of our standout players here. Lavaja getting 5 assists to his name, and John James getting 3. But again, there's basically very, very poor performances in terms of goal and in terms of assists, which I guess is kind of to be expected. We're a newly promoted club. We came up via the playoffs as well. I can't remember who came up with us, but obviously Brentford, Southampton and Brighton, the teams being relegated this season. Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester United, the top 4. And then we've got obviously all the other teams that round that out. I think we need definitely some improvement. If you're arranged just by ability, Marmol is now the best player at the club. I definitely need to have a look at his contracts. We've got 2 columns here, a minimum fee release clause for all clubs and a minimum fee release clause for clubs that are playing in a Champions League. And at the moment, he's valued at 21 to 23 million, and his fee release clause for those Champions League clubs is 21 million. So we need to have a word of him. Same sort of thing with Marco Sensei. In fact, he's wanted by Real Madrid. I'd be surprised if he discussed a contract with us, but we're going to try Jayden Bogle, same sort of thing. And then Sambi Lakonga as well, same sort of situation. But Momo the best at the club, so we want to keep him. Definitely going forward in this transfer window, we need to be looking for a new striker. Maybe we need to be looking at maybe a sort of playmaker like an Isco, maybe a bit more useful, maybe someone who's a bit more used to the Premier League that can provide those assists for someone who can actually put them in the back of the net. And looking at the finances we have for the season ahead, we have got a £44 million transfer budget to try and do that. We've also got a larger wage budget, which leaves us £353,000 spare, which I think is enough to go away and start bringing in some players that maybe mean we get a bit more of a secure mid-table finish next season. We do, of course, have a few players leaving throughout the summer transfer window, and the first of those is Shane Duffy, who has gone over to Blackburn, who are now playing in the Championship still for £185,000. He's done his job. He got us promoted to the Premier League, but he only played 4 games last season at the point where, if we're having a look at him and his analyst report, which we can't actually see, his ability has gone right down. So he's a player that has left. Matty Longstaff, one we purchased not all that long ago really as well. We got him on a free. He's left to go and play in the Championship as well with Preston for 850,000. Again, it's just a case of his potential and his ability there not really good enough for what we're now trying to build at Birmingham. The third one to go, another one that we obviously signed in this rebuild on a free, is Steven Segerson, who has gone to Sheffield United for 6.5 million, which I think is a great return on a player we got for free. He had a very, very good season, the season we got promoted from the Championship, playing 42 games, but last season he didn't play as many, in a 6.55, not really what we're looking for in this rebuild. And as we can see here down on the right, there were even more players going out, but the big standout ones of those are Facundo Colidio, who obviously we brought to the club when we were back in the Championship. Another one on a free. He played 24 games last season, scored 5 goals. Again, not really what we're looking for. We know we had that problem with players actually scoring. So he's gone off to play in Argentina, pretty much back where he was before to begin with, for 5.75 million we got for him, which again just adds to players that we can buy by increasing that transfer budget, which is absolutely lovely. Congolio also left. He's gone over to Wolfsburg for 2.1 million, which is pretty much more or less what we bought him for. He didn't play very many games at all last season. And we got Simmons on a free, I believe. No, we didn't. We paid 150,000 for him. He's never really played any games for the club. He's been out on loans. We ended up getting 230,000 for him because, again, the ability just wasn't really there. And at that point, you may as well get him off the wage budget. Jonathan Lecco is another one who's gone. He's just been out on loan for the entire rebuild. We paid £1 million for him. Sold him for 750,000. So not great, but it just removes him from that wage bill. And it allows us to buy players like this. Our first transfer through the door in the summer transfer window, which is Mario Vuskovic. He's a Croatian centre-back that we purchased over from Hamburger over in Germany. It's cost us 12.5 million. We can see at the moment 3-star current ability with 5-star potential. He's got some decent technicals. He's got some decent mentals as well, and at the age of 23, plenty of time to improve in the Premier League. He's obviously can play as a ball playing defender. He can play as a libero. Pretty much everything fairly competently as a centre-back. So let's hope this season he helps us not concede too many goals. We then bought in Caligari, who is a Brazilian right-back, purchased from Fluminense for £10 million. He's had an okay start so far. The thing that interests me much, I mean, I know he's playing in a Brazilian division here, and it's not quite comparable to the Premier League, but 19 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists, really great rating. The season before, really great rating, and he's been doing that consistently, so I think he'll get on all right in the Premier League. At least that's the plan. We then brought in Dennis Mann to improve that right winger position. We obviously had Jordan James there, who's great and he's fine, but as we saw before, he is League One quality. So not quite what we want at the moment at the club. So Dennis Mann coming in, 8.5 million, coming in from Parma in Italy, where he had a really good season last season. Hopefully he can get some assists. Hopefully he can get some goals. He did both at Parma. So once he's settled in, maybe it will take half a season or so. I'm hoping he'll be firing on all cylinders and providing for our new striker, which is João Pedro. Had him in our Watford rebuild that I did about a month ago or so, and he performed really well there. And the thing is, although he's maybe not quite as good as some of the other players, he will score goals. And the moment we've put him in a Premier League look as well, he's been with us basically since the start of the transfer window, and all of this is improving exponentially. He's got great potential as well. He's scored a goal in the Premier League so far. 13.5 million to get him from Watford. He wasn't scoring bags of goals there, but he wasn't really being given a lot of playing time either. So I'm hoping he will do better than the strikers we had last season at least. We then brought in this guy who I've never heard of. Let me know if in the comments below if you've heard of him. Arsin Zakharian. He is a Armenian central attacking midfielder. He plays currently at Dynamo Moscow, and we paid £50 million to bring him to the club. Now, I said earlier on that obviously we wanted someone who maybe could have a bit better passing and could supply our striker with some good balls forward that hopefully they can put away. And I think this guy fits that bill. Again, decent ability at the moment, really good potential as well, and he's best played as an advanced playmaker in that slot there. He can cover in some other positions as well, which is lovely. Passing of 14, technique of 15. I feel like he's going to be pretty decent. He's got good determination as well. His work rate could be a little bit better, but we're going to live with that. We did bring in one more player after him, and that is Nicholas Seivold. He came to us from Red Bull Salzburg for 8.25 million. Again, he was getting on pretty well. They had a good couple of seasons in terms of ratings. He's going to be kind of there as our ball-winning midfielder, I think, this season. And if we have a look at our tactic and we pick this by the best 11 without any restriction, this is what it looks like. There's not a huge amount of changes, to be fair, in here. Viskovic comes in as a centre-back. Caligari comes in on that right-hand side. Seivold comes into play as the ball-winning midfielder, which means Sambi Lokonga moves over into what is now a central midfielder on a support role. Before it was a box-to-box midfielder. And we've got Man coming in, so we've switched that to an inverted winger on attack. I'm interested that these guys seem to know how to play together already, because they can't have played together that long, but never mind. We've then got Zakharian coming in as what is now an advanced playmaker, and Yao Pedro up front, which is all lovely stuff and hopefully works well this season. Although that's not entirely the case at the moment in the Premier League, we can have a look at our friendlies, and we did really well. We actually drew 1-1 with Real Madrid, and we didn't look horrific in it either. In fact, if you look at the match stats, I'd say we were the better team. I don't know what sort of team Real Madrid were playing, but it doesn't look like it's a horrific team by any stretch of the imagination. But coming into the Premier League, we can see we lost 1-0 to Everton. We then drew 1-1 with Arsenal before getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Reading and losing 3-1 to Bournemouth. So it could be a very long season. But the only way for us to find out is to go and simulate that second season and see if we can survive for a second time in the Premier League and maybe go even better than that 14th place finish we did last season. Okay, so we're back after season 2 with Birmingham, and how did we get on? Well, it turns out the season was a little bit of a struggle, with Birmingham finishing all the way down here in 17th place, only 9 points above the actual relegation zone. So how has that happened? Let's go and have a look at our schedule. So just filtering this to only the Premier League fixtures then. Look at the start of that season. No wins in August, no wins in September, no wins in October. It takes until mid-November before we actually get a full 3 points on the board, and that's against Swansea and against Wolves. We do seem to improve a little bit from there, so there's a couple more wins in the month of December against West Ham and against Man United, because again, a bit like last season, we can't beat Fulham, but we'll beat Man United the game after. Lovely stuff. There's lots of draws in there, there's lots of losses in there. I think the draws are costing us a little bit, possibly more than the losses, because obviously it's just 2 points drop, 2 points drop, 2 points drop. If some of those could be converted into wins, then we'd probably be more mid-table than we are near the bottom. But just looking down this, February is poor again. I mean, there is a win against Everton there. March, particularly poor, only 1 point from 3 games. And you look at this run, there's a draw there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 losses on the trot. 2 draws, another loss. We get 1 win, so we got a win at the end of February. We don't get another win until May, and then we finish the season with a loss to Liverpool and a loss to Newcastle. All in all then, it's been a pretty poor season. FA Cup wise, we beat Plymouth in the 3rd round, Norwich we beat in the 4th round. We then beat Spurs in the 5th round to make our way to the quarter-final, where we then lost against Manchester City. I think they actually knocked us out last season, if I remember rightly as well. Carabao Cup we already saw, we got knocked out on penalties by Reading in the 2nd round, so going out of that one particularly early. If we take a quick look at the squad though and arrange this by goals, we can see we have at least got somebody who will give us double figures on goals now, and that is João Pedro, who has massively improved getting this Premier League football and making sure he's playing every game. His finishing is now 17. I think when we signed him it was 14, so that's really, really good. I think he stays as the main striker next season because I think he's only going to get better. I don't think we're going to be able to bring someone in for the sort of money that we could get for him. He's wanted by Brighton, he's wanted by Fulham. I'm hoping he'll stay at the club. If I'm looking at his dynamics, they seem pretty good. He's only meant to be a squad player. We're going to see giving him important player playing time, so I think he is likely to stay. After that though, again, there's not really many goals in the clubs. In terms of assist, Isco, despite only playing 18 games as a starting player and 14 from the bench, has got 8 assists and is our top assist maker. Caligari, that's kind of what we brought him in for. Yes, he's a defender, but he will give you assists. So he's got 7, which I think is a very reasonable figure as a right back. Sambi Lokonga has, given 5, but nothing major. I still think we got that problem of the strikers not being supplied or not. But what I want to do is have a look in a bit more detail to work out what it is we need to do to actually improve this Birmingham team. So I've come over to the detailed report just to have a little bit of look. I mean, possession-wise, we're all the way down in 15th. We only average 47% possession in the league. We're also near the top on red cards with 6 to our name, which is obviously not going to help us. But let's have a look at the attacking stats. I mean, goals wise, we're not actually too bad. 12th, which for a club finishing 17th is probably, I guess, about right. Our conversion rate, so obviously our conversion of chances into actual goals is 9%. The top in the league is Liverpool with 13, so 9 isn't necessarily horrific, but I do think it could be better. If we have a look at goals conceded, we can see we're all the way down in 15th in this league table, 57 goals conceded from 38 games, which is actually, if I remember rightly, an improvement on last season. So it is annoying that we have finished lower in the league. Expected goals against, we're one of the highest with 58 goals expected to be scored against us, which is pretty much exactly what was scored. So I think, again, maybe we just need to build from the back and hope that going forward we're going to be all right with the likes of João Pedro leading the line, Zakarian obviously there as well, although again I don't think he's had a fantastic season really. 29 appearances, 5 goals, but only 1 assist as the advanced playmaker. I think this man needs to do a little bit better with his chances. Hudson-Odoi over on that left hand side, again I think he's very capable. 4 goals but only 1 assist, and on the other side we've got Man, who would have played most of this season, 3 assists. So the assists from these 3 need to be a lot better, or there's no point us really playing a front 3. We may as well drop one of these into a defensive midfielder role. We need to go away and have a look and see what players actually are willing to join us as well, because that's obviously part of the equation. We have got a 42.5 but 42 million pound budget, and also a little bit of the wiggle room in the wage budget. I think there's players that are likely to leave again, because if we go back to the squad screen and we arrange this by appearances, Bakuna has only made 2 appearances off the bench this season. We're paying him £23,000 a week. There's no real reason to keep him if he's not going to be playing. Sean Longstaff only made 7 appearances from the bench this season. Again, is someone we could get a little bit of money for, so maybe it is time now for him to move on as we've improved the midfield. Murik didn't make hardly any appearances, but that's because Jasper Killison is obviously our main goalkeeper. He will be leaving at the end of the season. I'm not sure if he's retiring, but he's definitely leaving at the end of the season at the age of 37. So he could probably step in to be the main goalkeeper in that role, and I think we'd be okay with that. Marco Livaja is listed. He made 1 starting appearance this season, and he scored a couple of goals across 20 substitute appearances. We're paying him £46,000. He will definitely be offloaded as well. Jack Stevenson's only made 2 appearances, £42,000 a week. He's actually got a transfer arranged already, so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. There are going to be players leaving. I want to do another season with Birmingham now and see if we can actually improve this squad to the point that maybe we're looking at some European football. Maybe maybe at least we're looking a little bit more secure to staying in the Premier League and finishing mid-table. Let's see what we can do in terms of transfers. I'll be back in a second. So transfers completed. What have we done then? As we mentioned, Jack Stevens has left. He's actually gone to Monaco, which admittedly is probably a little bit of an upgrade for him, if only on the money he's earning. The next one out for us was Isco. I said he might leave. It's an annoying one because obviously he has been our top assister for the last couple of seasons. But equally, let's look at last season. 1 goal, 7 assists. Is it really good enough for the money we were paying him? Probably not. We've obviously lost quite a bit of money selling him. He's gone over to Troyes in France for £2 million, but it's all about freeing up that wage budget for new players. Marco Lavaja has also left. He's also gone to France. He's gone over to Nimes for £525,000. The other big ones out, I say big, Adam George has gone. He was definitely never going to be good enough for the club. Now it's at this level. And Sean Longstaff, a player we obviously bought in the rebuild, has now gone. He's gone over to Bristol City in the Championship, which probably tells you the level he was playing at and why we wanted to sell him. We bought him for 1.2 million. We sold him for 3.8. So a decent little bit of money recuperated there. Now, obviously, we mentioned that maybe our defence was a little bit of a problem. And I saw this man, who I've used in previous saves and previous rebuilds, up for sale. So we brought Dominik Livakovic in definitely as a improvement on our goalkeeper. He's cost us 50 million. You can see he was playing for Southampton in the Premier League. They got relegated and he went to Crystal Palace last season, and Crystal Palace had put him up on the transfer list, saying that they basically needed to trim their wage budget down. So we've brought him over. I think that's a very, very reasonable fee for a goalkeeper. That's a vast improvement on what we had as well. If you look over here, you can see obviously Muric there as our three-star goalkeeper. Dominik Livakovic, definitely an improvement. His one-on-ones and his reflexes are fantastic, and hopefully that's the difference between some of those draws becoming wins. I then felt we did need a backup striker as well. Obviously, João Pedro is our main striker and he will remain our main striker. But if he's out injured or he just needs a bit of a break, we don't really have anyone in behind him. So we've brought in Iheanacho, who wasn't playing to Leicester anymore in this world. He was playing for Wolves and then for Norwich. So he went to Norwich. He played one game for them for 4.6 million. We ended up buying him for 4.9 million. It's a good deal for them. I feel like it's a good deal for us. Obviously, he can cover some other positions, but as a striker, 17 finishing, still at the age of 29, he's probably not going to improve, obviously, and his star rate is not that good, but his technical attributes are really decent. His physical, he's still got some pace, still got some good stamina. I think he's going to be a good addition to the team. We then again needed the same sort of thing for a left back. Marmau is definitely our first choice over as a left back, but we need someone, if he's injured, we can bring in, and that is Luke Thomas. We've gone with Luke Thomas. I've used him before, but he's English. That's kind of one of the reasons he did come in. He was at Leicester. He went on loan to Lens in France last season. We've paid 18.25 million for him, which is a bit expensive, but I think that's a bit of that English player tax coming out there. And we needed somebody. We've got to obviously fulfill registration rules and stuff like that. Then brought Marko Grujic in as well. I've no idea if that's how you say his name. He's a Serbian, either midfielder or defensive midfielder, and much the same. His star rating's not fantastic, but we're playing with a deep line playmaker on defend. He's still decent at tackling and passing, and he's obviously quite experienced as well. If we have a look at him, we bought him for 4.9 million. He's been playing for West Ham in the Premier League. He played for Bournemouth in the Premier League before that, Porto, Hertha Berlin, Liverpool. He's been around the block a little bit, but he's got lots and lots of experience. So coming in as a bit of a squad rotation player. And then we dropped a lot of money on this guy, Alexei Myronchuk. He's a Russian, I'm not sure what we want to call him. He's either a right winger or a central attacking midfielder. He can also play in the centre of the park as a central midfielder or an advanced playmaker. What allured me to buying him and spending 26.5 million on him is this. It's his 30 appearances, 11 goals, 9 assists last season for Zenit St. Petersburg in the Russian league. And if that can translate over to the Premier League, I think we've got a good player on our hands, and it will be the difference between maybe those draws turning into 3 points. We then bought Aylan Almogin, not a player I've ever heard of, but we found him hanging out in the Israeli league. He is Israeli himself, and again, 30 appearances last season with 11 11 goals and 3 assists. Yes, the leagues probably aren't entirely comparable, but 1.8 million, he's made 2 appearances and scored 2 goals so far and got an assist. I think that is a very, very good return on investment if he keeps even fairly close to that the rest of the season. 1.8 million will look like an absolute steal. And then on deadline day, we did bring in Patrick Berg as well, who is a central midfielder who was playing at Tottenham. We've paid £10 million for him. Again, in case we ever decide to go to a 4-3-3. But in the meantime, he can play quite well as a deep line playmaker on defend. His tackling's relatively decent, as is his passing and first touch. So it just gives us that little bit more depth within our midfield, and he is also a model citizen in terms of personality, which is quite nice because you want those players at your club. We're looking at the results so far. We can see we had a really good pre-season again, but we always do tend to. And the Premier League, we got a draw on the first day of the season, which was 2-2 against Leeds with goals from Dennis Mann and João Pedro. We then beat Fulham 1-0 with a goal in the 87th minute from Caligari. We lost to West Ham, partly because Callum Hudson-Odoi got sent off pretty early. And we did lose against Man City, but I feel like this is quite promising. A 3-4 loss to Manchester City, I think, isn't too bad. Look, it's Man City. They've still got Erling Haaland there. Bernardo Silva, we can see. Phil Foden. So, you know, they're a really, really good side. We've managed to put 3 goals past them. If we can do that against the majority of teams, we'll do all right this season. But let's go find out if we can actually keep scoring those types of goals throughout this season as we simulate through Season 3. So the end of our 3rd season then with Birmingham City, and Klopp's just been sacked by Manchester City. But it's fine, all is right in the world because Pep Guardiola still at Liverpool. Anyway, FM22 bizarrities aside, how did we get on with Birmingham in the league this season? I'm hoping it's a lot better than the last one and we're not bottom of the table. That's the plan. Anyway, let's have a look down here. We have got what looks like a better start to the season. So we saw those first matches already right up until that 3-4 loss to Manchester City. But then we went and thumped Brighton 5-1. That's quite nice. There's a hat-trick from João Pedro in there. Almog, he scored a goal. That's great. So that would have mean he's got 3 and 3 at that point. And Myron Chuck managed to score in the 87th minute as well. And we followed that up with another 5-1 win. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Another 2 from João Pedro as well. That boy seems to be firing on all cylinders. Going into October then, and again, it still looks pretty nice. With wins against Tottenham, wins against Bournemouth. We've lost to Liverpool there, but really, do you expect anything else? They're managed by Pep Guardiola. We just saw that. November, again, fantastic. 3 wins on the trots. We're only conceding 1 goal in each match. They're not clean sheets, so we're not having to pay any clean sheet bonuses. That, I guess, is a plus, but we are winning games, which is kind of what we wanted. Oh, look, Scott McTominay playing for Wolves and scoring his own goal. Good to see that he's getting on all right. Watford there, that's a bit of a loss. A 4-1 loss to Watford, and there doesn't seem to be any real reason for it other than we played like... And then we move on into December, a month which normally we find in these rebuilds is something we struggle with. But on this occasion, there's just that 1 loss to Chelsea. There's a couple of draws to Southampton and to Manchester United, but we win all the rest of the games. Liverpool there, we lose to them at the start of January, but again, Pep Guardiola, need I say any more? Another loss there to Manchester United. I'm not sure why we've played them in such quick succession, but we'll ignore that. And a loss to Fulham. None of those are ideal, but a 4-1 win against Chelsea to end off February is fantastic. João Pedro managing to get a hat-trick against them, and Hudson-Odoi scoring against his old club. March is a bit of a mixed bag, but again, there's a massive win on the cards, 5-0 against Burnley, who I believe, because I was watching it simulate and just watching it all on the top, I believe at that point they were 19th in the league. And April, it's a very, very strong finish to the season there. We've got 2 4-0 wins against Watford and against Newcastle without conceding. We do lose to Arsenal, but again, it's part of the teams in the Big Six. We'd expect to lose to them. And the end of our season, there's a 2-3 loss to Aston Villa, which isn't ideal. But we finish off with a 3-2 win against Brighton. Another couple of goals from Almog. How did we do then? Where did we finish? Well, we have managed to finish 6th with Birmingham qualifying for the Europa League this season. And to be honest, we're not far behind the guys in the top 4 spots either. 71 points for us. Chelsea in 4th place with 76 points. And Manchester City only had 78, which was obviously led to Jurgen Klopp being sacked. Realistically, I mean, a couple more seasons, maybe Birmingham break into the top 4. It's not something we're going to be doing, but is it something maybe you could take on? If you're a member on my Patreon, of course, you can download this save file and continue from where I leave off. So maybe you could do well in Europa League. Maybe you could take Birmingham to a top 4 finish in the next couple of seasons. The sky really is the limit at this point. We are so far above where we were last season. Still 11 losses, which isn't ideal. But what we talked about at the start of this season was converting those draws into win. And this time there's only 5 draws and 22 wins. So we've definitely done that. FA Cup as well. We can see we were knocked out in the quarterfinal by Spurs. And we were knocked out in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup by Manchester City. But really, it's a good performance all round. And if we're having a look at this page here, we just arrange this by goals. There is a massive 39 goals in 46 appearances from João Pedro. If we're having a look at that, that is 29 goals in the league, which is such a good return from him this season. I'm kind of interested to see. He isn't the top goal scorer, but he is the 2nd top goal scorer. The top goal scorer is Erling Haaland with Manchester City and 46 goals. And realistically, we kind of know this in FM. You're not going to find a striker that's going to keep up with that. But Myron-Chuck is the top of the assist charts, and it's by some margin. And the only person actually anywhere close to challenging him is Almog, who's one of our players as well. So we sorted the assists out, we sorted the goals out. That is all lovely. So have a look at this as well. We've got a few more players chipping in. Zykarian here with 12 goals. Almog got 12 as well, as did Hudson-Odoi. So now we've got 4 players that are getting double figures. In terms of the assist charts, we've got Myron-Chuck getting 21 assists in all competitions, as well as 8 goals. That's a really, really good season for him. He turned out 100%, I think, worth the money, 26 million. But 6 goals in the league, 18 assists, finishing top of the assist chart. I think that made that worthwhile. Almog as well. I mean, we paid basically 0 money for him in today's market, 1.8 million. But that sort of return, I think, is really, really good. Heading down from there, 14 assists from Caligari, 8 assists from Zakarian. It all looks a lot better. The other thing I would like to look at is Livakovic this season. 36 appearances, 56 conceded, and 8 clean sheets. It's not brilliant, but it's definitely not as bad as we've seen in previous seasons. And if we pop over here and just have a look at what FM thinks our system manager thinks our best 11 is, it's Livakovic in goal, Marmol, Sensai, Viskovic and Caligari as the back 4, Berg and Sambi Lakonga are in midfield, Hudson-Odoi, Myron-Chuck and Mann all behind João Pedro. I think that is a team that, if you build on that, is fully capable of maybe competing for those top 4 spots. And you've got a £41 million transfer budget to try and do that. There's not actually a lot left in the wage budget. In fact, it's exactly flat. The board have given you exactly the wage budget you've got already, so you would have to offload players. But if we have a look at this, I mean, Bakuna still needs to go. I just couldn't get rid of him. Joe Ariba, he's barely played, as is Yaden Bogle. Jordan James, he's really not improving, so at this point he probably needs to leave. Iheanacho hasn't played a lot of games, but I think he's a very, very good utility player. Muric, you need a goalkeeper, so we kind of expect that from a goalkeeper. We obviously bought in Grujic this season as well. He hasn't played a lot, but fair enough. And Seivold really hasn't played that many games in the grand scheme of things. So if you want to go away and continue this save using the Patreon file, then I think you could do very, very well with Birmingham City. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Would you be happy with this as a Birmingham fan in the year 2027? And if you have managed to get this far in the video, then please do drop a like down below, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and check out the video that's on the screen now for more content from the channel. And I will see you over on the next video. Bye bye.